With Israel attacking Iran sending missiles to Israel, Apple with their own event, with AI being front and center through earnings. We have a lot to cover in our weekly summary, so let's dive directly in. Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Micha, and on this channel, we talk about stocks, we summarize everything, or at least the highlights of things that happened this week in the stock market. And a quick reminder before we talk about what happens in the channel, nothing here is, of course, financial advice. Everything is for your education and entertainment purpose only. So if you can subscribe to the channel, that would be amazing. We're 6.5K subscribers. Let's start. Markets needed to digest during the week. As you can see, Friday we saw a flush down, and major averages ended on the red, with the S&P down almost 0.4%, Nasdaq down 0.6%, and the Dow and Russell down 1.3 to 1.5. You can see that during Friday, after the Israel attack on Iran, you can see that there was digestion. The digestion ended pretty quick. And then Iran started sending missiles toward Tel Aviv, and then you can see the market flushing down through the videos that they saw. When we look at the indices themselves, you can see energy, one of the, of course, biggest winners of any conflict, up 5.6 for the week. That's the XLE. All the rest, not a huge impact. You can see the XLF, the financials, down 2.5%. But again, if this would be the impact, then the market digested it pretty well. Regarding the conflict itself and the operation itself, I'm not going to talk about during this video, of course. Crypto market, proven again that there's no such thing as the fiat is dead and no more money and this is the new money. At the end of the day, the equation is pretty easy. Risk on, risk off. When there's risk on, crypto market goes up. When there's risk on, when there's a conflict, when there's war, things like that, crypto market goes down. That's it. Put aside all the theories about this is the new money supply and all that. It just doesn't hold water. You can see here crude oil up 13% for the week. And why is that? Is because the Iranians are thinking of closing the Hormuz passage, and by that they will disturb not only shipping but also the transfer of oil. You can see, I'll show you in a minute, that the major country that they export to, the Iranians export to, is China anyway. So it's very, very, very specific to that country as well. We're going to talk about that. And when we talk about great, you can see Tesla up 10% for the week, actually different than all the rest. We're going to talk about why that happened in the news section. But you can see Apple down 3.6 for the week after their event, which was shoulder shaker. Nothing new. I think that if you would ask the Apple executive, they would be okay not doing the event at all, after the fact that they had an event last year and nothing happened from it. I don't even think they wanted to do another event. Okay, that brings us directly to the news of the week. I'm not going to talk too much about the conflict or the operation or the war. You can call it in any way you want. Let's start with the CPI. We got two different reports this week, the CPI and the PPI. The CPI is more focused on the consumer price index, the PPI and the producer. Both of them came cooler than expected, meaning that inflation is dying down. And the Fed, the big question is when the Fed is going to reduce rates. We're going to talk about that at the end of this video. That's the CPI. Donald Trump during the week tweeted about Iran, saying Iran had an opportunity to make a deal and they didn't. And that's why he kind of gave the green light or agreed for the operation. And they should still sign a deal. And when we talk about Iran and the impact, you can see here, this is the Iranian export over time. You can see in 2025, they actually increased their export. Actually, since 2020, they increased their exports mainly to China. You can see here on the red area is the export from Iran to China. Trump is very proud of the deal that was signed with China. Talking about China, he said the deal is done. Now, it's not really clear which deal he's talking about because it was mainly focused on two areas. One is magnets or rare metals. And from the Chinese side, it was focused on chips, We do not know what the agreements were around chips. We do know that the Chinese are supposed to provide the metals and the magnets that were missing, both for the industrial sector in the US. Not both, actually, for the industrial. And this is Tesla, and the reason why it went up. Several items, not in any chronological order. One, during Friday, we get this comment from Walter Bloomberg saying, or this highlight from Walter Bloomberg that says the following: US moves to ease the rules that are hindering Tesla's self-driving Cybercab, meaning that Tesla is probably going to get an approval for their Cybertruck. We also saw the Robotaxi, currently with the Model Y, being tested in Austin. We were supposed to have first rides on Thursday. It was actually delayed 2 weeks, mainly for security reasons. I can tell you from experience that I'm using FSD all the time. I have it in both my Teslas. Both my wife and me are using it constantly. We're not driving anymore without it. It's a really, really, really huge game changer. And I wish I would be able to do other things while I'm in the car. I can still sit near the driver in the driver's seat, but I don't. I would rather do something else at the same time. I'm very confident that the car will take me to where it needs to take me. NHTSA, NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety and Administration, is starting to fix their safety acts in order to provide Tesla the ability to not only produce these, which is probably pretty easy, but mainly to be able to do that from a regulatory perspective. President Trump, after Elon Musk apologized for the way he tweeted, says, I thought it was very nice that he did that, or both of them had a call, apparently, and both of them took a step back, and that's why all these good things are happening to Tesla, and you don't need to be naive. That's why all these good things are happening to Tesla. Prime Minister Keir Starmer from UK said that he doesn't see any obstacles to finalize the US-UK trade deal. Trump needs trade deals before 4th of July. He promised. That's the deadline. 9th of July, if I'm not mistaken, is the deadline. He will need to line them up. And of course, he will probably try to schedule it around 4th of July to have it kind of a big celebration. All these countries are signing. Make it to be able to market it outside. Apple took the top spot in China in sales April and May. This is a good turnaround. If the Apple event would have been better, and we're going to talk about it in a second, I believe this comment would also help. Google, or let's talk about Meta, Scale AI, and then Google. Meta acquires 49% of Scale AI for $14 billion. We're going to talk in a second why, but Google is one of their biggest customers. So why would Meta do that? Mark Zuckerberg feels that Meta's speed in creating AI apps is too slow, and he wants to accelerate. He understands that there is a huge opportunity. And Meta, with the way they're dealing it, is going relentless on that. ARM CEO Rene Haas warns both the UK and Europe and says Europe does not have enough energy to scale AI, whether it means that they're going to start with small modular reactors for nuclear energy, whether it's solar, whether it's wind. It doesn't matter. Europe doesn't have enough energy, so they can say a lot of things about AI, but they cannot power it. Lisa Su and AMD had an AI conference this week. A lot of announcements, but mainly the fact that Lisa Su sees $500 billion of market in 2028 for AI chips, aligning with Jensen Huang. And if we're talking about Jensen Huang, here he is and saying that the decade of robotics and self-driving cars is starting today. And you know who is the leader for both self-driving cars and robots at the same time. TSLA is the ticker, and this is not financial advice. NVIDIA is not going to report anymore their China forecasts. They just can't with all the government scrutiny. Vietnam called Nike's and Walmart executives to help them rally support for the deal with the US. Tragic jet crash. Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashes in India. One survivor, and amazing how he was able to survive. One survivor, I heard that they got only one black box so far. They're probably going to get the second very soon. And then they're going to try to figure out, this of course damaged Boeing again and GE, who is the engine producer. And these are charts coming from Wisdom Tree that are showing that CPI is basically, or inflation is basically done. And there's no need why the Fed should keep the rate in the place that it is right now. Oracle, amazing earnings report, gigantic cloud contracts, and Larry Ellison, their founder and CTO, says, I have customers that are saying, give me everything you have at any cost, at any price. This is like the new golden race, AI race, bubble, you can call it however you want. Warner Brothers Discovery is going to split into two different companies by next year. They did some kind of financial arrangement between the companies. One would take the debt, the other would take the growth. Yeah, it's once we get those companies up and running, we can talk about them. And we got to Apple WWDC. A lot of announcements. Apple says that they're gonna redesign for the first time in 10 years their iOS, mainly gonna align the same kind of call it the glass look across all devices. Not a lot of AI news around it. I think they're mainly kind of trying to figure out how they're going to come back from last year where they promised a lot of things, which none of them happened. So that was Apple, and you saw the stock performance. NVIDIA and HP are going to build a supercomputer in Germany. Amazon is going to invest $20 billion in Pennsylvania to expand innovation, cloud computing, and infrastructure. IBM says by 2029 they will have a quantum computer. Snap is going to start or going to keep pushing for AR glasses, same as Meta, same as Apple. Microsoft is going to add 1 million Copilot users from a single customer. That is the Pentagon, the government, basically. Zuckerberg, we talked about that. Uber announced today their plans to launch trial of fully driverless rides in the United Kingdom. This would be amazing because it means that the regulation would open up for other companies like Tesla. President Trump signed an executive orders to advance drones, flying cars, and supersonics. A lot of companies are probably going to benefit from that push. Pentagon slashes in half their request for Air Force F-35. This mainly damaged Lockheed Martin because the order came to Lockheed Martin. NVIDIA CEO does a U-turn, and he says the quantum computing is at an inflection point. And last but not least, GameStop is trying to do what MicroStrategy is doing to raise billions of dollars and buy Bitcoin. To add that to their balance sheet. That's all the news for the week. Surprise, right? A lot of news. Let's talk about earnings for next week. Not a lot of earnings next week. Mainly Friday, Kroger, Accenture, and Darden. Thursday, we do not have, the market is closed. It's June 10th. So there won't be any stock market performance. Wednesday, we are going to get the Fed. The Fed is going to send out their interest rate. Currently, the projection is that there's not going to be a lot of change. And then 2:30, there's going to be the press conference. And this is going to be the interesting part, the press conference. What would Jerome Powell say? How the Fed is looking at the situation? Because basically, if they're data dependent, they should reduce rates. But they have the tariffs. And that's why they're not reducing rates. Let's look at the S&P 500 through the lens of the Japanese candlesticks and the chart. I'm going to cover up all my markings, and I'm going to start by making each of these candles be a weekly candle. A weekly candle provides us the ability to look at the market. Let me put the S&P 500 in front of us. Here it is. And it provides us the ability to understand where the market. So the market peaked this week, or actually got this peak to 60.60 this week. And then you can see the market coming down all the way to 59.76. Usually from a technical perspective, this kind of shape for a candle with an increased volume usually predicts that we might be coming down a bit for whether it's a correction, whether it's fear. And there's not a big surprise. At the end of the day, the market currently is fearful for everything that is going on between Israel and Iran. Will it escalate? Will we see the US involved? And you should be prepared for a few days, of course, of a correction. Where would we correct to? We might correct to around 58.50, maybe even lower to 58.30. we should see some kind of support around 58.30. It rounds the 150-day moving average, and of course it closes a gap that's still open on the S&P 500, which wasn't fully closed here. You can see the green area, and that might be an area of support. If we keep going down, the next stop would be 57.73. If all goes well and good news come in, then we might break the 60.59, and from that point on, 60.99 or 6100 would be the next stop. I hope you enjoyed all the news. We're going to meet again next week, same time, same place. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time. Bye-bye.